Chapter 9. The Negative Power. In the divine design, provision is made for an antagonistic force intended to maintain the soul in its present state of bondage to the creation and of separation from the Lord. The efforts of this power are directed toward preventing the soul from coming into contact with a perfect master. If that event should take place, it does its best to delay and deter the soul from making inner progress. In the language of the saints, this force is often referred to as Kal, meaning the negative power, to distinguish it from Dayal, or the positive power, namely, the merciful Lord. This Kal, or negative power, has been given countless names by the great Munis, Rishis, prophets, and Gurus in history. He is known as the devil, Satan, or Lucifer in the Judeo-Christian literature. Muslims call him Shaitan. Zarathustra, Zoroaster in the West, calls him Ahriman, the opposite of the merciful Lord, Ahura Mazda. Buddha, we are told, was tested greatly by the evil one during his 49 days under the Bodhi tree. He was tempted with the 5 deadly passions of lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, but overcame them all to attain enlightenment. And in the Bible, we read of Christ's wandering in the wilderness for 40 days. Here, Satan tempts Jesus and offers him his entire kingdom if he will cease his spiritual efforts. So here we see the negative power working actively to tempt 2 illumined souls. What is he trying to accomplish? Why is he here? The negative power serves a much-needed function as a spiritual filter. It is his task, allotted to him by the Supreme Lord, to see that no soul gets past a given point in inner ascent without first having attained the proper degree of purification and readiness required for further inner development. In a way, this is a positive function of a negative power. It is his duty to see to it that no unclean, unprepared soul leaves his jurisdiction. Sometimes, disciples try to justify all responsibility for immoral living by blaming the negative power for the misfortunes and temptations which come their way. Or they fall into another very subtle trap by saying, all this must be happening by the Lord's will, since He is behind everything. The subtle error here, as discussed earlier in the book, is in attempting to view the world from the absolute level of reality while we are still imprisoned on the relative plane. Naturally, from the absolute level, the Lord is behind everything, but we are functioning below the eye center. Therefore, to imply that absolute reality and its laws apply to us is ludicrous. A simple example may help. For hundreds of years, science has proclaimed, what goes up must come down. Today, we realize that the statement is incorrect. It now must be modified to state, what goes up must come down, unless it goes up high enough to avoid having to come down. Actually, the law of Newton regarding gravitation is still true today, so long as we are referring to conditions within the gravitational field of the Earth. But beyond its field of gravity, the law in operation is different. Similarly, we are operating within the force field of the Earth, and mystics tell us that the Earth is in the domain of the negative power. To put it another way, the negative power is the Lord or God of this physical creation. He is the ruler of this plane. In the Bible, Christ points out that this world belongs to Satan, and we should make haste to leave it. It is not that Satan, or Kal, is more powerful than the Lord, but rather that the Lord himself has given the management of the physical world into his hands. The laws of this realm, therefore, were designed by Kal. We call them laws of nature. The various sciences in the world study and analyze these natural laws, all of which are Kal's doing. As science advances, we learn more about the way in which this universe is managed. But the one behind all these natural laws is the negative power. Even this human form is a creation of Kal. He has designed millions of forms for the purpose of imprisoning the soul within his domain. He is permitted to move the soul from life form to life form, but he cannot create or destroy the soul itself, for the soul is the essence of God. Saints tell us that Kal himself is an emanation of the Lord, although he has been given a special task to perform. Although he resides at a very high level of consciousness within, he is barred from going back to the Lord. In Sar Bachan, Swamiji Maharaj tells us how Kal operates to mislead and waylay souls. Surat, soul, has become forgetful of her own home. She has taken Kal's realm as her own. Kal has created the three worlds, physical, astral, and causal, while Dayal, the merciful Lord, has brought forth Satlok, the eternal realm, as his own. Three worlds are of Kal. The fourth realm is the abode of the merciful, Dayal. Kal beguiles unliberated souls, jivas, and prevents them from attaining the fourth realm. Kal does not disclose the secrets of Dayal Purush. He keeps souls shackled in external religion. Kal preaches his own worship in various ways with the result that souls must go through birth and death. Swamiji further says, Kal has besieged all the world. No one seems to search for Dayal. Kal expresses his power in mighty ways, and all the souls follow him. And elsewhere he says, how shall I describe the doings of Kal who rides with might over all? He has caught all creatures in his traps and is misleading them. No one, alas, fears what awaits him, nor stands in awe of Yama, the Lord of Death. Here, Swamiji is telling us that Kal has cleverly trapped souls in this creation by establishing religions which worship him as a supreme being. Knowing of the soul's yearning for God, Kal has put counterfeit paths before seekers, hoping to keep them from leaving his domain. The foolish souls think they are worshipping the Lord himself, when in fact, they are simply trying to merge into Kal, who is himself just a drop of that divine ocean. Kal would have us believe that his drop is, in fact, the ocean. Swamiji concludes, the lure of the world deludes all men, and no one can escape from Kal. The whole world is burning in the blaze of desires. All creatures are tormented in this inferno. No way of escape can be seen, and everyone perforce must burn in this hellish furnace. Day and night this fire consumes them, and birth and death they will have to undergo, time and time again. Thus will they wander about in different bodies, without discovering the cure for their disease. How can I put in words the sufferings they undergo? Their misery is indescribable. To accomplish the Lord's purpose for him, Kal has been given 3 boons. The first is that the saints will not work great public miracles in order to attract and win disciples. The reason for this is obvious. If the masters were to perform public miracles, everyone would instantly run to them, and this creation would rapidly come to an end for want of souls. Since the Lord does not desire this creation to end, all the souls cannot come onto the path. As Christ explains in the Bible, no man will follow him unless the way has been first prepared by the Father. Further, Christ indicates that all those who came to him were first marked by the Lord. It is true that miracles do happen around masters, for they are gracious and compassionate. But these miracles are not for the purpose of winning disciples. They are private occurrences solely for the spiritual benefit of a particular disciple. Sometimes, a master does help a disciple bolster up his faith by a so-called miracle or unnatural event, with the purpose of keeping that disciple steadfast upon the path or helping him out of some situation when his spiritual progress is at stake. Furthermore, miracles in themselves prove very little, for even yogis of a lower order can manipulate the cosmic laws to produce rain, read minds, walk on water, cause others to do their bidding, and so on. These powers come automatically with the concentration of mind power, and anyone who delves into the occult can develop such powers even without a master. Also, science today produces many miracles that were thought to be impossible just a few years ago. In the future, we will likely see more such departures from natural law. The true miracle, according to the saints, takes place within, when we see the true power of a perfect master at work. The second boon given to the negative power was that every creature born into this physical world would not remember its past incarnations. We may remember our past lives during the interval we spend in some other astral stage before coming once again into this world. But once we are placed in our mother's womb, a rapidly descending screen of forgetfulness falls over the soul. By the time we are born into this world and acquire our intellectual faculties, we find we have no knowledge whatever of any existence prior to this lifetime. After a few years, we will even have a hard time recalling our early childhood. Again, the reason is fairly obvious. When we think about the terrible things we have done in this lifetime, we hang our head in shame. If we were able to see our past lives, we would instantly give up all the pleasures of this world and rush about trying to find a living master who could free us from this endless bondage. The result would be, once again, termination of the creation. There is, however, one subtle exception to this rule, and it is termed sanskaras in India, meaning impressions and latent tendencies which we inherit from the past. This is why we sometimes subconsciously avoid situations into which another individual rushes blindly. In our case, we have already had such experiences in the past, and the soul instinctively recoils from further involvement. Gradually, over many lifetimes, these sanskaras push us towards a better life. For all of us, with the exception of a few highly advanced souls, our past existence is an absolute blank, and we do not know whence we came or what may have existed before our coming into this world. The third boon was that each creature would be content with the body which he inhabits. No creature in this world, no matter how miserable his lot, desires death. Even a creature in the throes of agonizing pain fights for his life. To illustrate this point, there is a famous story in India relating to Lord Krishna, an avatar of Lord Vishnu. It is said that Lord Krishna was asked by a disciple why he did not immediately lift up the souls around him. Krishna replied that the souls would not be eager to leave this world and go to a higher heaven. The disciple, hearing this, was startled and begged permission to bring a soul to disprove Lord Krishna's argument. Krishna told him to approach the first animal he met on the road, and if that creature desired elevation to a higher plane, it would be granted. The disciple dashed out into the countryside and came across a pig. He told the lucky creature that he could be granted higher realization if he would come before Lord Krishna and state his wish to leave this world for a higher one. The pig, fancying himself an intellectual, said, "Not until I ask a few questions. I'm not a simple fool who will blindly follow anyone with a wild idea." The pig then inquired as to the characteristics of this higher region. The disciple replied that it was a beautiful region, clean as a diamond, and steeped in delicious fragrances. The pig appeared rather skeptical and asked another question. "Do you have dirty mud for me to sleep in, and some dung for me to roll in?" The disgusted disciple replied that heaven did not contain such filth. "Aha, just as I thought," replied the pig. "Such a place may be heaven for a fool like you, but for me it is obvious that the place you are describing is really hell." Mark Twain, the American writer, once remarked that Christians were a funny lot. He said that they crave sex, don't like church, and hate to sing hymns. But they say they want to go to heaven, where there is no sex, and they will be in church all the time singing hymns. We maintain we want to go to heaven, and we think that it is a place much like earth with heightened sensual pleasures. Yet, if we were given the opportunity to go to heaven straight away, we would likely think of some urgent chores that needed our immediate attention. If we truly believed in higher existence, we would hardly fear death. This fear is an outright confirmation of our shallow faith. Every creature, therefore, is relatively happy with his lot, and humans remain but little better than the animals until they turn toward the spiritual life. We have the potential within us to become true children of God, but if we are not utilizing this potential for inner realization, we are hardly entitled to be considered anything more than a smarter kind of animal. We have seen that God has been given certain boons to enable him to perform his function. The living masters voluntarily subscribe to these handicaps even more rigorously than God. As designer of the physical universe and the laws of nature, God can play with these rules and modify them whenever he wishes. If it is to his advantage to suspend a certain rule to allow a miracle to take place, he does so. How many poor souls have been led astray by the tricks of God? Wanting liberation, they have been seduced by a simple miracle or trick of God. All it took was a little metaphysical manipulation, and they ran after a false master. God often enters the creation in the form of an avatar, or incarnation. As Swamiji explained above, his purpose is to mislead the souls. He appears as a prophet or holy person and gives out teachings that lead to limited inner progress. No doubt, those persons who follow these lofty teachings attain some inner ascent. But God cannot take them higher than his own region, and very few who follow his incarnations get even that far. It is because God does not want to see us destroy ourselves in this creation that he manifests himself periodically in the form of a purported redeemer and sets the balance right again. As we can see, we are so heavily chained to this physical creation that any talk of the absolute is foolhardy so long as we are bound to the world below the eye center. We can talk about absolute levels of reality when we go in and up. But before that time, it is an intellectual exercise or mental gymnastics with no foundation of experience. Maharaj Charan Singh explained this very beautifully when he said, "It is true that the master does everything. When a disciple loses his identity and merges his ego in the master, then he can say that he does not do anything, and it is the master who does everything. But as long as a person is the slave of his mind and senses, he wrongly justifies his actions under the cover of this argument." Let us now look at another aspect of the problem. To love the Lord, masters explain, means to love his creation. St. Paul says that if a man claims to love God but hates his brother, he is a liar and a hypocrite. It is obvious that if we love the Creator, we cannot find fault with that which He has created in His boundless wisdom. This also includes the negative power. If the Lord is ever to be realized, we must begin by appreciating the splendor He manifests on every plane of consciousness, ours included. It is a delicate balance. On the one hand, we must not become enmeshed in this creation, but, on the other, we must learn to appreciate it as being the Lord's will in action. Lord Buddha gives us a clue about how to attain this balance when he says, "He who has found there is no self, ego, will let go all the lusts and desires of egotism. The cleaving to things, covetousness, and sensuality inherited from previous existence are the causes of the misery and vanity in the world. The way of the teacher does not require a man to go into homelessness or to resign the world unless he feels called upon to do so. But the way of the teacher requires every man to free himself from the illusion of self, cleanse the heart, give up thirst for pleasure, and lead a life of righteousness. If they are like the lotus, which although it grows in the water, yet it remains untouched by the water. If they struggle in life without cherishing envy or hatred, and live not a life of self, but a life of truth, surely joy, peace, and bliss will dwell in their minds." And Christ tells us that this world is like a bridge we should pass over, but build nothing on it. The secret is detachment. It is the ability to live in the world, but not be of the world. With such an attitude, we will find we can love everything in this creation, without the danger of becoming attached to that which is perishable. True, it may help to think of the negative power as an adversary, but we must be mindful of the fact that he has his duty, given to him by the Supreme Father, and he performs it well. Here again, an illustration may help. A good athlete sees the opposing team as an adversary to be beaten, and this is useful because it increases his desire to win. But it would be foolish if he were really to hate the other team, for real hate would destroy the fun of the game. Rather, he uses this as a helpful technique to spur him onward. Similarly, it helps for us to see the negative power as an obstacle to our spiritual progress, as a hurdle which we must cross. The great master, Maharaj Savan Singh, used to describe Kal as a farmer charged with watching the horses in a pasture. He's not much concerned about any particular horse until it begins to wander in the direction of the gate. Then he must take precautions to see that the horse does not escape. He puts obstacles in its way, and the closer to the gate a horse ventures, the more attentive is the farmer. It is the responsibility of the negative power to impede a soul's progress as long as possible. Let us hope we can be as diligent in performing our duty as the negative power is in performing his. The seeker after truth may find that once he learns about a perfect master, the negative power lays siege to his mind, with every kind of temptation and doubt besetting him. Naturally, the negative power will make a strong effort to prevent a sincere seeker from finding the true path to liberation. He is jealous of each and every soul placed in his charge, and is determined not to let any soul escape. For if a soul does find a perfect master and the path, the game for all practical purposes is over, since the disciple will definitely leave this creation through his meditation and the master's grace. This is why seekers must always guard against attacks from the negative power as they research spirituality, and keep an unbiased mind and a receptivity to the Lord's grace.